Welcome to this afternoon's Semrush. I am joined by Joel Bondarowski once again. Joel was on a few weeks ago talking about the 5 pillars of PPC, and today Joel is back with us and is going to be showing us how to set up successful pay-per-click campaigns. Joel, thanks for coming along again.
You're very welcome.
I'm not sure the audience is going to be the exact same people as the last time. So just for anyone who doesn't know who you are, or in fact, let's go first.
Hello? I think we might have lost Craig. Actually, I'm not sure if we lost Craig or Craig lost me. So basically, I think Craig wanted me to do an intro. Oh, there, we're back.
Sorry about that.
Was that me or you?
So, Joel, you can introduce yourself. Tell people who you are first and foremost.
Okay, well, my name is Joel Bondarowski. As Craig said, I'm based in Tel Aviv, Israel. I've been working in the PPC industry for a long time. Actually, I first started it back in 2000, before Google AdWords was even a player. And since then, it evolved, and I evolved with it, took some time off of it. Once I decided to move to Israel about 7 years ago, I started working on some really interesting mass market campaigns when I was an employee at Wix.com, a popular website builder that some of you know. From there, I really expanded my horizons, got into running, large-scale data-driven campaigns, and eventually left Wix and started doing my own agent and started up my own advertising agency, where I took the skills I learned there and applied it to other, to service clients and whatnot. And yeah, and we've been in business now for about 5 years, and now I'm here to pass on some of that knowledge to you guys. I'm actually going to pass on some knowledge on a very, 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 very targeted and basic level. So that way you can just take the minimum in order to apply what I've learned to set up, very simple targeted campaigns. And that's pretty much it.
Perfect. No, that's great. It's always nice for people to see who you are and what you do, just for those who have never seen or heard of you before. What I was going to say earlier before my stupid connection got cut off was, are we able to see, does Joel only wear a shirt? Are you a shirt-dressed man? For anyone, it's just a private joke. Joel's actually got shorts underneath. So he's looking very smart there with his shirt on, but he's actually got a pair of shorts on, which is really funny.
Yeah, really, I had to throw something on, and this was sitting on a hanger, so.
So for today, obviously, you're going to be talking about or showing people how to set up their own pay-per-click campaigns. Are you able to tell us some of the most common problems that you see, like just a couple of the kind of main things that you see? Like, is it like
Well, I think his connection dropped again exactly when he was about to ask me a question regarding about the most common problems people see. So I can only speculate as to where he was going with this. I think, yes, absolutely. I could tell you what are the most common problems I see when people set up their first campaigns. And I think primarily the mistakes that people make is that they worry too much about the size of the campaign. They worry too much about building keyword lists, the campaign, and they end up running large campaigns when what they have is a limited budget to work with. What ends up happening is that they end up running campaigns that have very thin stats, which means that they're not able to really optimize them. And that's something I'm going to address in this conversation. Other problems that people have as well is that they often start driving traffic, but they're not accurately measuring the performance of that traffic. If you can't measure what you're doing, you can't optimize. Look, it's very rare that a campaign will launch and be profitable from the start. That almost never happens. What you have to be set up to do is launch your campaign, set a benchmark, so that way you can improve. Because no matter what, you can always improve. And once you see what you're doing and see how you're improving, you can then understand where you're going. So you don't feel like you're just throwing money into a pit, which I think is where people end up when they launch their own campaigns. They're often just spending money, and they don't really see the return, and they don't know when it'll end. So the most important thing there is to be able to measure, benchmark, see your improvement, and do it in a way that's manageable by keeping the campaign small and simple. Small and simple, by the way, makes the campaign makes it much easier to build. And that's pretty much what we get into in a bit.
No, that's cool. Now we do have quite a lot of people in here already. What we want to do is encourage people to ask questions. And I will be asking Joel questions throughout the webinar, so please put them in the YouTube chat. But for now, Joel, the stage is all yours if you want to get your slides up.
Okay, let me get that going here. One second. Okay. Is everybody seeing that?
Everything looks good.
Good. Okay. Okay, great. Let me switch over to my PowerPoint view. Excellent. Okay. Well, this webinar is about how to set up your first successful AdWords campaign. And I'm going to give a very condensed, quick rundown on everything you need to know in order to launch. Basically, last webinar, I didn't really give any how-to advice. I pretty much spoke of the 5 pillars that I follow when I run PPC campaigns. Those 5 pillars aren't really instructions. They're more about things that you have to keep in your mind when you're running your campaigns. I will give a very brief rundown of those 5 pillars. I know that a lot of you might not have seen my previous webinar. If you'd like to learn more, and if you'd like to, really get into it, you could by, seeing it on YouTube. Basically, the first pillar is to put Google before yourself. What that means is that before you could worry about making your own money, making your campaigns profitable for yourself, you have to make sure that it's profitable for Google. And to explain that very quickly, I will tell you this. Let's say, well, Google AdWords is a competition. PPC is a competition. You're competing for Google's limited ad space. Google, you pay per click, which means that Google makes money per click. If you launch your campaign and you're competing for ad space with someone else that gets a lot more clicks than you every time their ad is shown, meaning that their ad is more engaging, their ad has a higher CTR, Google will make a lot more money off of that advertiser for every 1,000 ad impressions or X number of ad impressions they give them. Google will then reward that advertiser by charging them less per click and positioning them more. So in order for a campaign to be profitable or successful, you need to first make sure that your ads are as engaging, if not more engaging, than your advertiser competitors. That means showing the right ads to the right people at the right time. And I'll get into more about what you need to do in order to optimize your campaigns to do that. The second pillar is to be in control, and by be in control with stats you can use. That means, first of all, that your campaign, you have to have the tech set up so that you could measure certain KPIs that you set as conversions, so that way you can benchmark yourself, test, and improve. So, and that's the first thing. And second of all, you need to make sure that you need to have a campaign that isn't bloated with too many keywords. It's like, and I'll get into this more in a bit, but yeah, of course, there's so many different ways people can search who might be interested in buying your product. Every extra keyword you add is another thing you need to, another element that you need to get statistics on to know how to bid properly. So you need to keep your campaigns, you need to have confident statistics to work with. The third pillar is then to build a money machine. If you have those confident statistics that you could work with, you then know the value per visitor for every keyword that you spend significant money on, so you know exactly what to bid on it to be profitable. Next, you need to optimize for profit. I mean, we're not in this just to break even, but breaking even is the first goal. I mean, once you build a boat that floats, you could then go further. I mean, once people could fly, they then realized they could fly really far. So the first goal is to build that money machine to where you put in money into Google and you'll get more out of it. Next, you need to optimize so that way you can be you can be profitable. Once you optimize for profit, you could then once you're profitable, you can then take some of those profits and expand your campaigns and grow. You could expand into more keywords by testing them and getting those statistics so that way you're profitable. You could expand it to more verticals. You could expand it to different channels of marketing, such as Bing Yahoo PPC or display advertising, Facebook, etc. And of course, also you could grow in different markets, different verticals, and so on. Now, in this presentation, I'm going to just speak primarily about we're going to be focusing on the first 3 pillars right now, because to me, a successful account is one that isn't just throwing money into a pit. Once you get to the point where your accounts could keep running and running and running, and you're not just blowing money, you're getting a return on that investment, even if that return is exactly what you put into it, you then have a base to do it and to optimize and become profitable. You could then fly. You're then in the game. Okay, next I'm going to start talking about my strategy to make this happen. Well, we have to think about you have to consider the process that someone makes when they first make a search, see the ad, click on the ad, end up on the landing page, and then convert. The process is a sales funnel, which I think most people are familiar with. Every step in a funnel has another drop off. A search is an ad impression. So you have a certain number of ad impressions. Percentage of those people will click on that ad. A percentage of those people who click on the ad will then convert on the landing page. What you have to understand, though, is that not every keyword is equal. Someone searching for one search term that could result in a sale on your website has a different desire than a different one. When someone makes that search, they're expressing a desire. When someone sees that ad, they're then deciding which ad to click on. When someone hits that landing page, they then respond to it. They then decide, they either bounce or they stick around and absorb its content. And then afterwards, they make the decision to purchase, which could take a lot more time, but that's something that we're not going to discuss right now, exactly what happens after they hit the page, because it could get a bit complex. But the bottom line is that there is a process. That process is a thought process, and that thought process can be divided by different keywords that someone could be looking for in order to hit your website, and also different products they might have to offer, as well as different stages someone might be in the purchasing process. What do I mean by that? Well, in this slide right here where you see the funnel, you could multiply those funnels by different stages of awareness, interest, desire, and action. I will give an example of a product that someone might be selling online, and that product could be beach chairs. Someone who wants to purchase a beach chair and is expressing real interest in purchasing it will search for best beach chair, buy a beach chair. That's a very actionable keyword. Someone searching for how to enjoy the beach. They're aware about going to the beach. They just didn't really think about buying beach chairs. In between that is going to be comfortable at the beach and maybe just beach chair. Your keywords are going to fall somewhere in between, somewhere in that funnel. My suggestion is that in order to build this money machine, you need to target people who are ready to take action. The keywords that drive action are fewer. More people are looking for how to do stuff than actually wanting to purchase it. So those keywords might look less appealing to you when you're doing your keyword research, but they are going to be the most valuable because they do deliver the most action. They're also going to be the most expensive. However, as you're testing your ads and funnel, You want to test your ads and sales funnel for those actionable keywords, because those are the ones that are the most relevant for your clients, for people who want to buy your product. If you test your landing pages and funnel for people who are simply interested in something remotely related to what you do, you're not necessarily getting people ready to buy. Targeting people further up in that funnel is something you're going to eventually want to do, but later on, further up, when I say in the top of the funnel, in the awareness section, that's something you want to do later on when you're looking to grow and get more traffic. But my suggestion, if you want to build a simple and quick campaign, is keep it small, simple, and just target those actionable people. It's going to be scary because those keywords are going to start off being the most expensive, but those keywords are going to be the ones that are going to help your campaign float initially. I'm going to now get into actually like how the campaign should look. I'm suggesting building a very simple targeted search campaign, which, by the way, isn't going to work for all products and all verticals, but it will work for something if it could be searched for and then described in an ad and then sold on a page, like beach chairs, or like, let's say, an emergency lock service, or even a hotel somewhere, or a trip somewhere. Before I get into our campaign structure, I'm going to just give a quick rundown on Google campaign hierarchy, Google account hierarchy. I know that some people here might be really beginners, so that's why I'm going to step back and get into this. Basically, everything inside of a Google AdWords, the overall encompassing thing is the Google AdWords account. You log in, you get into your account. Inside of your account is where you have your billing details and other stuff related to just administrative with Google. Inside of the account, you can then create campaigns. You could have many campaigns. Division a campaign, you'll divide your campaigns based on, let's say, you want to divide your campaigns. There's many reasons why you want to have different campaigns. One could be, let's say you're targeting, inside of the campaign, you have settings, like the time of the day that you're going to run, your budget caps, as well as, let's say, device targeting and so on. So let's say you want to target multiple markets, or let's say you have one thing that's very profitable and you want to start testing a different vertical. Well, your profitable campaign, you're going to want to have an open budget, but your new test, you might want to put in a different campaign. Or maybe one campaign targets one geography and the other one will target a different one. You might want to divide them that way. Inside of the campaigns, you have different ad groups. An ad group is made up of keywords and ads. People search for search terms, which the keywords trigger. They are then shown ads, which then lead to the landing page. You could have multiple keywords in an ad group. You could have multiple ads in an ad group. The reason to have multiple keywords in an ad group is to show, so that way you get more traffic. And you could have more things that people could search for, which then show your ads. The reason why you want to have multiple ads in an ad group is so that way you could compare the performance of different ads for those keywords. Ad groups should be segmented. You should segment your keywords into different ad groups if you want to show different messages, different ads for different keywords. For example, let's take the beach chairs example. Let's say I'm selling beach chairs, those keywords related to exactly beach chairs could be in one group, but let's say there's some sort of niche like beach chairs with cup holders, and there's a lot of search volume for it, and I want to have ads that address just beach chairs with cup holders because those ads will have a higher CTR. So I might put those keywords into a different ad group to show ads more catered to it. However, for the intent of our conversation, for the intent of this presentation, which is to be successful in AdWords, spending as quickly as possible, spending as little as possible, I'm going to suggest a campaign structure that looks more like this. You have your account, you have one campaign, you have one ad group, and you have maybe one or two keywords, and of course, multiple ads, because you always want to test ads. This, first of all, is part of the reason why I'm able to explain this whole thing in a short amount of time, because I'm not going to get into building large keyword lists. I'm just going to talk about showing an ad for the number one thing that you do testing the best possible ad for it, and then optimizing your landing page for it. Well, I've run a lot of campaigns in the past that have a lot of keywords, and what tends to happen is that few words, the few words are driving most of the results. A big mistake that I see people make when they're running their own campaigns is that they end up getting lost and with long list of keywords that have very low insignificant statistics, but they add up and cost them money. What often happens in this example that I'm going to show you is that you could have, let's say, 5 keywords that you're running. And of those 5 keywords, one keyword might bring you 1,000 clicks, another keyword give you 300, and so on. If I'm trying to understand the value of each of those keywords, I need to understand its conversion rate. In this chart, by the way, I'm showing the keyword, the value per sale for each keyword, the number of clicks for each keyword, sales, and the percentage of CVR's conversion rate, which is the percentage of people who click on the ad and buy. I am then using a formula, which I'll explain later, to calculate the value per click. Value per click is the value per conversion times the conversion rate. Now, if I have 1,000 clicks and 50 conversions, I am very confident that if I keep paying I could pay $5 per click and break even. If a keyword brings me 300 clicks and 20 conversions, I can be fairly confident that I will continue to have a 7% conversion rate, which gives me a $6.67 value per click. However, as I move down the list, I lose confidence. So if you're launching your first campaign and you want to be profitable without dumping too much money in it, cut out those extra keywords. Just focus on what drives your sales, which is going to be a keyword like, let's say, if I'm selling beach chairs, and I'll show this in a bit, just the keyword beach chairs and only beach chairs and nothing beach chairs is going to drive most of my sales. That's the only keyword you need. Focus on that one keyword, learn its conversion rate, you understand its value, and you've got your money machine, and then you can worry about expanding later. I use the Google Keyword Planner to show this example. Basically, let's say your product is beach chairs, or your product is you're selling a vacation in a certain vacation in a certain location, or you're a locksmith of sorts, or you're offering locksmith services. If you run in the Keyword Planner, you're going to see one word in particular is driving the vast majority of that traffic. So from the Google Keyword Planner, I was able to produce a list with thousands of keywords directly related to beach chairs. But guess what? Just beach chairs alone is really all that matters. So if I'm going to win with the best possible ad, I want to win with the best possible ad for beach chairs. After I win with that ad, I could then work on other things. So this right here, what I'm showing you from the Google Keyword Planner, kind of reflects my previous slide where the few matters the most. And working with the few is better because A, it's easier, and B, you get more statistics from less. Less is more. Now, once you have that one keyword, you're then going to want to focus on testing that ad, because your next goal is going to be to have a better ad than your advertising competitor. In fact, that's really all you want to focus on before you ever think about making money for yourself, is having the highest quality score possible. Quality score means that Google thinks you're the most relevant and you deserve the highest position for the least amount of money. Once you achieve that, you're able to get the cheapest traffic, which means you don't need to, which means you could make more, you could afford higher clicks. I mean, sorry, you can make more money, and also you don't have to worry about your conversion rate as much to become profitable. I'm going to give some pointers about ad copy and testing. Basically, as far as ad copy and testing goes, and this, by the way, I'm going to expand on in later presentations, but for now, I'm just going to give some best practices. Always test 2 or more ads. Never run a campaign with just one ad. You're wasting money, you're wasting impressions. So if you're going to launch your campaign, make sure you're testing. I've been asked before, how many ads should you test at a time? Well, that depends on 2 factors. The primary factor is search volume. If you're getting thousands of impressions per day for those ads, then maybe you could test more than two, because you're going to get results fairly quickly. If you're able to check your testing, if you're not able to keep tabs in your campaigns every day, and let's say you can only check on your A/B test once a week or so, then you have more impressions for the amount of time you could check, so you can also test more ads. So it's really about how much traffic you get, how many impressions you get, for how often you could check. Once you start testing, it's very important to establish a control ad. That is your winning ad. Always take your winning ad and then make minor changes to different elements of that ad. So let's say I have a winning ad. My next experiment should be maybe modifying the headline, or modifying the description a little bit, or modifying the call to action to see if I could improve on it. Most tests should be minor tweaks of your control ad. You lose yourself in testing sometimes. If you come up with wildly new creative ideas every time you do a test, you lose the ability to understand what it is that people like to see. You lose the ability to understand if the call to action, buy now versus get yours today, is better, for example. So if you really want to understand what the best call to action is for your product, keep the ads the same and just test different call to actions. Once you've exhausted all the ways to improve your control ad, then start coming up with newer variations, like more wildly creative ideas to test against it. I will give a little bit of best practices on ad testing or ad creative writing. From my experience, basically people respond best if the ad headline reflects the search that they use to trigger that ad. I'm not saying necessarily to exactly repeat what the person searched for, but it should reflect it. They're much more likely to respond to it. The ad description should then complete the inner dialogue that might be in the user's mind when they conduct the search. If someone is searching for beach chairs, they're thinking, I want to relax at the beach. So maybe the description should be, relax and cool off at the beach. Versus another description, if I'm testing descriptions, enjoy the beach with the most comfortable chair around. So you're testing relaxing versus comfort. Those are two minor elements that you're comparing. But what I'm getting at is that the description should basically fill in what the person is thinking. And then call to actions are just different, ads should always end with a call to action, and a call to action should push the person to purchase. It should be something imperative, like an imperative voice, like do it, make it happen. You can't say click now. You really don't want to do that. That's for practice. But saying something like get yours today or order now, those type of things work, and those are other things you're gonna want to test. A mistake that I commonly see people make is that they'll be A/B testing and they don't have confidence that they have a winner. So they just keep the test running and running and running and running. And because let's say the two variations have very close results, when that happens, kill the test and start something new, because you're losing the opportunity to test something meaningful. So if a lot of time, and when I mean time, I mean more like ad impressions pass and no winner is found, kill the experiment, because it's an opportunity cost. You're losing the opportunity to test new things. How do you know when you have statistical confidence that you have a winner? There are tools available like abtestingguy.com, the calculator which has a link that I put up here, where you could basically put in the results from two different ads, and it'll tell you whether you have confidence that you have a winner or not. What do I mean when I talk about winning confidence in a winner or a loser? What I mean is this. Like, let's say you have two ads. One ad has a 10% CTR and the other ad has a 9% CTR. The ad with a 10% CTR has 10 impressions, has 100 impressions and 10 clicks. The ad with a 9% CTR has 100 impressions and 9 clicks. You don't really know for sure that the ad with a 10% CTR is the winner, One or two clicks, it could be 1 or 2 clicks one way or the other is going to make the difference. So you don't have confidence. Now let's multiply those numbers to 1,000 ad impressions versus 100 clicks, 1,000 ad impressions versus 90 clicks. Well, now you have confidence, more confidence. 1 or 2 clicks isn't going to make that difference. But maybe it could, but maybe you don't really have real confidence to kill your test. That's where this tool will come in very handy. You can input those numbers and it'll let you know how confident you are. Okay, next I'm going to get into some very basics about campaign creation, settings, and setup. I know that, let's say you're setting up your first campaign, Google gives you a lot of things to choose. You don't know what to do. So I will, give a quick rundown to this. It's pretty basic, but I think it is important. The first thing that they ask you these days, I mean, Google recently revamped themselves pretty well, is what's the campaign type? I'm talking about search advertising right now. I'm talking about someone searches for something, you show them an ad, and you get them to respond. And actually, if you ask me, this isn't even really advertising. This is more like sales. It's sales because someone is looking for something and your ad is saying, hey, buy from me. Advertising is less solicited. So we're just talking about search. So for the first thing you're going to want to do is choose search as your option. Next, they ask you, what are your goals? What we're talking about is just getting website traffic. Getting website traffic so that way you can optimize that traffic to convert. A lot of the principles I'm explaining here do apply for other campaign types, but I think what most people are concerned about is just basic Google search, where you bid on that keyword, you show an ad result, and then you get the person to buy. So I actually went through the setup and I went through the settings page, and I'm kind of showing everything that I would choose if I was to advertise just a simple product like beach chairs, or a locksmith service, or a hotel somewhere, and so on. Basically, you want to advertise in the search network. The first question they ask you is if you want to include Google search partners. Google search partners is basically Google results that are not on google.com. The traffic could be good, but not necessarily. In the beginning, you want to be profitable from the best possible traffic. If you're not profitable and you're spending money, don't waste your budget on traffic that might not be as of high quality. So uncheck the Google search partners until you first optimize yourself for Google search. The display network is great because you're able to show to more people, a lot more people. There are a lot more people who aren't looking for a product that could buy it than are looking for a product. However, it is very expensive and complicated to optimize it. That is a place you want to go later on when you're ready to expand. But right now, we're worried about keeping it simple to make a campaign that floats with just 1 or 2 keywords that directly reflect what you do or are selling. So opt out of the Google Display Network. Language settings. As far as language settings go, well, if you're advertising on Google search, someone is inputting a keyword. They're searching for something. So if the word is the search term itself is specific to the language. So oftentimes I would suggest actually just targeting all languages, because if you're advertising something like beach chairs in the United States, the user might, let's say, have their browser set in Spanish, because Spanish is a very popular language in America, in the United States of America, and you don't want to miss out on people whose browser is set to Spanish searching in English for beach chairs. And that goes for other languages that they might be using. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend narrowing down in the language setting because of the fact that the keyword itself expresses that intent. The next thing they're going to ask you is about your budget. Budget, to me, until you're profitable, is how much you want to invest in that keyword that you're bidding on per day until you become profitable. The more keywords you bid on, the more you should be willing to invest. If you don't have as much to invest, and that keyword is expensive, and the best keywords, the most actionable keywords are going to be expensive, keep it small. Just target just those few keywords and set your budget to how much you feel comfortable with spending per day. The next setting, delivery method, is very important. It's basically showing how quickly you want it reflects how quickly you want to show your ads. Campaigns are set to start running by default as the day turns over. If you have your campaign set to accelerated ad delivery and your ads are triggered a lot because there's a lot of searches and your position is high, you might run, and your budget is set low, you might spend all of your budget by 1, 2, 3 in the morning. That's not good because you're not optimizing for necessarily your best buyers. So I recommend setting your ads to standard ad delivery. Unless you're doing something, let's say, that is B2B, and your best potential buyers, let's say, wake up at 6, 7 in the morning. If that's the case, maybe you might want to schedule your campaign to start at 7 in the morning, set the ad delivery to accelerated, and let the budget run out because you know the most qualified buyers are searching as soon as the day starts, and as the day goes on, they might become less qualified. Once your campaigns are profitable, you're going to want to have the campaign set to accelerated ad delivery, so that way you win every single possible ad impression. You get every single ad impression you qualify for. Next are the bidding settings. In the beginning, you want to focus on clicks, and you're going to optimize for conversions based on the bids you give those clicks. You're going to want to set those bids manually. I selected what I would do is also select a bid strategy directly to where you're choosing to bid using enhanced CPC. It's grayed out in this example because I don't have conversion tracking set up on the account that I use to take the screenshot. But enhanced CPC is nice because what Google will do is adjust your bids up to 15% based on the likelihood that you're going to get a conversion based on your history. So if you have conversion tracking set up and you start driving traffic, check it off, and Google will up your bids a little bit if they feel you're more likely to get a conversion. And by the way, it's not just on the keyword level, it's multidimensional. What that means is that, let's say there's a certain hour where you're more likely to get that sale, they'll up the bid during that hour. Let's say you're targeting all of the United States and you're more likely to get that sale in a certain city, it'll up that bid for that particular city. Once you get significant statistics on those keywords, and Google has confidence in how to set bids, you then will want to go back and probably set it to run on Conversion Optimizer, where Google will set bids automatically for you every day based on your target cost per acquisition goals. Ad rotation. Well, in the settings, I expanded it to show ad rotation. Now, I didn't tick it off in the screenshot. My suggestion is to test. Your goal when you first launch your campaign is not to be profitable. Your goal is to have the highest CTR possible for your keyword. If you're selling beach chairs, you want to have the highest CTR for someone searching for beach chairs. If you have a boutique hotel in Fiji, you want your ads to be the most. You will win if your ads are the most captivating, most appealing for someone searching for hotel in Fiji. The best way to do that is to run your ads, to rotate the ads. Do not optimize to let Google show the ad. When you optimize, Google will show the better ads most. So that way, a bad ad isn't going to hurt your overall CTR. But if you are on top of your ad A/B tests and don't let a bad ad bring down your CTR, then you will want to rotate them indefinitely. So that way you can get equal stats every time you start a new test. Ad schedule, if you're running your campaign, by the way, and you have several ads running and you go on vacation for 2 months, yeah, then set it up to optimize because you want to let Google choose the better ads for you because you're not there to kill ads that are losing, which will bring down your quality score. I brought up ad scheduling before. If your budget is only $20 per day, spend that money when someone's most likely to convert. If you have a type of product where someone looking at 2 in the morning is less likely to buy than someone searching during regular hours, by all means, schedule it so that way it runs in those hours. Buyers are usually much more serious during better hours. So in order to become profitable, in order to make your campaign float, focus just on those on those more meaningful times. Later on, once you're able to figure out what your value per click is, and you're able to set a good bid for those profitable times, start testing other times. You could then start running. You could have bid adjustments, let's say, to bid down to bid less for less profitable times, or you could also run conversion optimizer and let Google do it for you. Location targeting, I'm going to say the exact same thing as I said for ad scheduling. If you're less likely to get the results you want, if someone finds you on a tablet, sorry, I just skipped to the next slide in my mind. If you're less likely to get the results you want from someone searching in a certain location, don't target it. If you have a physical location and someone far away is less likely to become a buyer, don't target that location. So location targeting is the same thing as ad scheduling, and I will say what I started to say earlier. The same applies to devices. Go into your device settings and target the devices that are most likely to lead in those sales in order to make your campaigns profitable. If you have only $10 per day to spend, $5 per day to spend, and keywords cost $1 per click, don't waste money on mobile when people are much more likely to purchase on PC, or vice versa. If you're an emergency locksmith, people are more likely to convert on mobile than on PC, so spend your budget on mobile. So a quick rundown, and I think this presentation is going to be published, which is why I want to, which is why I kind of summarized it. Search partners, they bring you less predictable traffic. Turn it on once you're ready to expand and grow. As I mentioned before in my 5 pillars, growing and expanding is the last one. So once you've built a money machine, once you've built a campaign that could bring you back more money, even if it's a tiny bit more money than you put into it, then you can take that profit or invest more of your own money in targeting more locations. That's where you want to. That's when you want to add search partners. Languages. If keywords show an intent, target all languages. Budget. Budget is the maximum you're willing to invest into the campaign or more into those keywords in order to achieve profitability. Ad delivery. Well, ad delivery, you're going to want to set ad delivery on standard unless you want to advertise very aggressively in certain hours that you schedule. You'll want to set it to accelerated ad delivery once you're profitable because you want to get every possible ad impression you can. As far as bidding settings go, set it to manual CPC to start with enhanced CPC. Once you have significant statistics, you can then turn on conversion optimizer. Ad rotation, do not optimize. Yet you do not set it to optimize. Stay on top of your A/B test. If you want, let's say you launch a new ad test, check it very quickly to make sure that it doesn't have a fraction of the CTR of the control. If so, it'll bring down your quality score and hurt your overall account. So stay on top of your ad test and do not let Google optimize. Ad scheduling is kind of like what I said, is kind of like location and devices. Be targeted. If you only have a finite budget, schedule it to the hours that people are more likely to purchase. If you're selling luxury cars, you're probably going to get really, really low quality clicks for people searching at 3 in the morning versus the type of person that might be searching for a luxury car at 6, 7, 8, 9 a.m. Location options, it's more of the same. Target people that are more likely to buy, and also with devices as well. Once your campaigns start to float, then of course you could start spending more on testing. But I would like to emphasize once again that testing isn't just about losing money. It's also about wasting ad impressions. If you test a new ad and it gets tons of impressions and no clicks, it will kill your account without spending a dime, because you will show Google that you do not make the most of their limited resource or limited commodity, which is their ad impression. So no matter what you do, make sure that it does not sacrifice CTR. I will talk a little bit more about bidding and budgeting again. I kind of touched on bidding earlier when I was giving that example about why fewer keywords are better because you don't wear your stats thin. When you start your campaigns, you're going to want to start with high bids for maximum visibility. In both the Google AdWords Keyword Planner and Semrush as well. I mean, Semrush is a great tool for this. They give you very good estimates on what your on what bids you need to set for maximum visibility. This take those bid suggestions, by the way, with a grain of salt. If your quality score is very low, that bid is going to be much higher for you. If your quality score is very high, you're going to be able to get that visibility with lower bids. When you start with very high bids to get high positioning. Even if that means you get a very small handful of clicks per day, that's fine. Do it in order to test for that top position, because it's that top position that's going to make your account win. You can achieve that top position and beat out your competitor if you could write a better ad than they can. So really the focus is bidding high enough to test that ad, make Google that money by being a better client for them than the other person bidding on that keyword, because your ad gets more clicks. Your CPCs will go down as your CTR improves, and then you start getting statistics. And once you have those significant statistics, you can then set bids with confidence. The formula is simple. Your value per click, the cost per click that will break even for you is the value of your sale times your conversion rate. If the value of your sale is $100 and your conversion rate is 5%, you could afford a $5 bid. And I know $5 might sound like a lot of money to a lot of people, because you think, wow, some guy sitting at his computer and he does some action which is so cheap for him, which is click on an ad, and it cost me $5. That sounds insane. But if that person is sitting at their computer and they're searching for a keyword, which means that they want to buy what you sell, and that sale is worth $100 for you, and there's a 5% chance that that person buys, that click is worth $5 for you. So it's something you have to understand, that you shouldn't be scared of those expensive clicks. I could understand how an advertiser could be scared of blowing money on advertising that doesn't yield results. That's what your budget caps are for. And besides budget caps on the campaign level, cap other ways. Cap by reducing bad traffic, bad ad impressions by cutting hours, cutting locations, and also devices that might not work as well until you have a money machine and you're no longer just throwing money at Google that doesn't work for you. Now, let's say you're running your campaigns and you're doing everything that I'm saying here, and after some time passes, you're still not profitable. Your first impulse might be to lower bids, but that might suffocate your campaign. What I would suggest to you is just simply lower your daily budget. It'll take longer to reach those results, but you can eventually reach it if you could write a winning ad. So keep testing those ads until your cost per clicks drop. Also, at the same time, improve your sales funnel to increase your value per visitor. As I described in the formula, your value per visitor is your value per conversion times your conversion rate. Your conversion rate is basically how many people you can bring to your site that you could turn into a sale. So besides testing your ads, you want to test your landing pages. Don't even launch your campaigns unless you have a mechanism set up to test those landing pages properly. Because that is the only way you can increase your conversion rate, to increase that value per click, so that way you could afford those expensive cost per clicks. Also, do not even think of starting unless you're able to measure all of this. If you launch your campaign on day 1, day 2, you're losing money. A week into it, you're still losing, but you're measuring, you might find that a week into it, you're losing, but your cost per conversions are going down because your conversion rate went up because of some optimization you did on your landing page and whatnot. So you need to be able to measure to understand where you're going, to understand the progress you're making, so that way you have the confidence to continue and be more aggressive, or maybe scale back and spend slower until you figure it out. The goal is to build a money machine, become profitable. Once that happens, you can then increase your budgets and expand. By expanding, I mean, you know, advertise other keywords, other verticals, more devices, and so on. So that is pretty much it for this presentation. What I would like to do in the next presentation of the series is get more into ad A/B testing strategies, as well as landing page tests and advanced bidding methods as well. I'm going to, one second. So Craig.
Yes, Joel, thank you very much.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Another amazing presentation. Obviously, we had people there saying, you know, can we go into advanced? Just for anyone watching, this is a 4-part series. So Joel's job here is to give some, you know, out the basics, the essentials. And as he said, in the next event, he wants to go deeper into different elements of pay-per-click. But that was an amazing presentation. Learned a few things myself, and we have some questions from the audience. Now, I've got a ropey internet connection, Joel, so in the chat there is all the questions there. But I will start with the questions. So Big City Cars is asking, it appears that their competitor is using their business name as part of their keywords. Should they do the same, or will that potentially lower their quality score?
It will lower their quality score. You don't want to build your business on launching. You don't want to start your business advertising in your competitor's name. You want to start your business you want to start your campaign advertising what you do. Now, bidding on your competitor's name is something you will want to do when if the majority of your traffic and searches come from keywords that have that great CTR and is really building up the health of your account, then you could afford to have a little bit of it lose, which is by advertising your competitor's name. But just know that your competitor will always have a much higher quality score than you because it is them. They're the most relevant for it.
Cool. Excellent. Would you ever use AdWords Express rather than the setup that you've just demonstrated there, just for a beginner?
AdWords Express, I think, works great for beginners who have no experience to get into AdWords and launch a campaign and start spending money on Google. It works very well for Google. I don't recommend it. I think you should take the time to understand fully all the options and settings, so that way you could, you know, make the most of your.
Perfect. Now, Swiftly Digital have asked, how many impressions should you wait for an ad before making an A/B test decision?
Okay, it's a good question. The 1,000 number, I don't like arbitrary numbers. I like confidence. So I will give you 2 extreme scenarios. Let's say you're A/B testing 2 ads, and you have those 1,000 impressions. One ad has 99 clicks, and the other ad has 100 clicks. You still don't have a winner. Let's say you're A/B testing 2 ads. Both ads have 50 impressions. One ad has 20 clicks, the other ad has 1 click. Well, after those 50 impressions, you can be pretty confident that which ad's a winner and which ad's a loser. So like I said, it's, but if you're testing and you get thousands and thousands and thousands of impressions, you don't have any clear winners or losers, I suggest killing the experiment, because it's not going to be that meaningful, and it's better to move on and try something else. And if you really want to be sure about about whether or not you're confident, I suggest referring to that link that I displayed in the presentation. If you're A/B testing and you're not sure if you should kill the test or not, plug in numbers into that one, into the one tool, and it'll tell you whether you have the right confidence or not.
Perfect. Another question from Swiftly Digital. They were curious about cross-group negatives. They usually wait to add negative keywords from AdWords to the campaign level, but they're wondering what you would sort of do.
you have to first of all with the methodology that I'm describing, when you're dealing with exact keywords, there's no reason to add negatives because you're looking for people looking for exactly that and only that. So if it's like beach chairs, just beach chairs, what's the reason for a negative, right? So to answer the question, I would first work on really targeted words, and negatives wouldn't necessarily be that relevant. However, let's say I am advertising. Let's say I'm a bit more mature. My account's a bit more mature, and I'm using broad modifier and phrase keywords. To answer your question, it really depends on the vocabulary. For example, Wix. I worked at Wix. I was advertising keywords like create a website, build a website, make a website. If you're advertising keywords like create free website, broad modifier, someone might search for something like create free website buttons. Well, buttons isn't interesting for me, right? Or how about this, website design, okay? That's a great keyword for Wix, but maybe not website designer, so maybe designer should be a negative in that group. You know what I mean? Also, when you said cross group negatives, I mean, it just depends on the vocabulary. You just have to think about the incidents, you have to do there's 3 steps I would take. First of all, just be creative and think about possible scenarios and think about things people could search for that would not be relevant. Second, use keyword tools like the Google AdWords keyword tools to see results that might not be relevant to you to get ideas for negatives. And the third would be to always analyze your search terms to see individual words instead of the search terms that are completely irrelevant.
Perfect answer. Thanks for that. Next question is, what's your thoughts on someone with a small budget using either long tail words or very generic keywords? What would you suggest?
I suggest what I really think everyone should do if you have a small budget is just target what you do, only what you do, and that's it. The more words you add, the more stats you're going to need in order to become profitable. I understand the appeal of long tail words. Long tail words could be very appealing because they could be cheaper. I would suggest, unless the long tail word is exactly what you do and is something very unique about you, I would stand clear of it. Let's say I'm selling beach chairs, but really what I do best are beach chairs with cup holders. Then maybe I want to start with beach chairs with cup holders. It might be a bit cheaper for me, and because that's more relevant for me, that could be my word. But I would stand clear of long tails if they are less actionable for what your product is.
Perfect. And what is your view on the site link extensions, etc.? Would you suggest that they improve your ads performance through your own testing or not?
Definitely improve ads performance. I recommend using them whenever you can. Just keep in mind that it's not as you need to have for site link extensions. You need to have a website that has more landing pages to drive people to. But it definitely makes your ad more clickable, and also it could kind of segment your traffic different ways. Let's say I'm selling beach chairs. I could have a site link extension that says beach chairs with cup holders, another one for a different type of chair. So it makes my ad respond better to more people, because someone might be looking for one thing that's generic when they really want something more particular.
Perfect. So we've got 2 minutes left, so we'll probably have another question or two. There is one here, and it's probably like asking for a needle in a haystack. Someone asked, what would you suggest is a good starting budget for a beginner? I take it that's obviously something.
It's how much you're willing to lose. That's basically it. It's really how much you're willing to lose. But I do want to reiterate one big point. It's not a little bit off the question, but you have to, if you're first starting off, don't look at how much you're spending, and before you look at how many impressions you are wasting. If you're running search and your position is high and you have a CTR below 2%, pause it until you figure out, work on your ad. You're doing something, you will lose. Eventually, your quality score will drop and you will not gain traction. In other words, Focus on your CTR before anything else. And why am I saying that? Because those ad impressions are cheap. So if you're focused on budget, how much are they spending per day, you might not necessarily be focusing on how many ad impressions you're wasting. So really just spend what you need to spend. Spend what you need to spend to test your ads.
Perfect. And we will go for one last question, which is from Colin Sanchez. He wrote, to determine an ad's effectiveness, should they look at its conversion rate or total conversions?
Well, that's okay. It's to test an ad's effectiveness, the first thing we're going to look at is its CTR, because people being engaged in that ad is what matters the most because for Google. That is given the assumption that your ad is directly that your ad is directly related to what your landing page does. If your ad says one thing, your landing page is something completely different, conversion rate and CTR won't correspond. Conversion rate and CTR often correspond very, very, very well. I would look at conversion rate before conversions, because if you the total conversions has to do with how much traffic you get. So if your conversion rate is one thing and you have more traffic, you're going to have more conversions. So really the rate is what matters the most.
Cool. That's
before that CTR. Or you might actually want to look at something else, which is how many impressions you get per conversion. That's compounding the ad impression with CT. You might want to compound conversion rate and CTR to get a full picture.
Perfect. And that's us out of time. So thank you everyone for joining. Thanks, Joel, for another great webinar, and we will see you all next time.
Well, thank you very much, guys.
Cheers.
Have a good evening or day, wherever you are.